Hello, everyone. It's Wee Dude here, back with another podcast review. It's been a little bit since we've done one of these, but recently, the new Mortal Kombat movie, Mortal Kombat 2012, I guess we're just gonna be kind of calling it right now, is out, and I want to discuss with it with two friends of mine, Stefan and Tevi. So, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Doing all right. It's hot as shit. It's definitely becoming summer.
Yeah, I'm thankful for it because it's been so cold. You see,
Yeah.
this is a reference to Sub-Zero. It's all connected, guys. But
It's all
And then it comes back to Scorpion, setting it all on fire.
yes, indeed. But we watched this together on HBO Max the weekend that it came out. Did you guys have any real expectations heading into this film? Because I will still say, I'm still a fan of the 1995 film of the first Mortal Kombat. No, it's definitely showed its age big time. I still think it's fun, like at least a fun time. And before Detective Pikachu, I would say probably the best video game movie we got. Which, not saying a lot, but
Bar was not high.
yeah. Because I would say it was like, as a Mortal Kombat fan, I was like, all right, let's check it out, see what it is. I wasn't like overly excited for it. It was definitely a we'll see what we got here kind of deal. Did you guys have different expectations, or were you guys in about the same boat on that?
So I remember I forget who did the interview with Ed Boon, but I remember when Ed Boon said that there was a script for a new Mortal Kombat movie that was written, and this was like back in 2019 when MK11 was coming out.
Yeah, because
So
I think this film's been like kind of in production now for like 10 years or something like that kind of deal, like getting
Yeah.
this off the ground.
Yeah, and like after hearing that, I was kind of going into it like, okay, we're at least the action will be cool. And then the first trailers come out for it earlier this year.
I think it was earlier this
And
year, yeah.
yeah. And initially I was kind of excited because like the designs for the characters were really cool. The action scenes that they showed were pretty damn good. So I was going into it with like relatively decently high hopes, but at the same time I was also trying to keep my expectations low because it is a video game movie. And I know there's the stigma that like, oh, every video game movie sucks, but every video game movie kind of does suck. So
It's not unfounded.
yeah,
There's
it's
a
not
reason why
unfounded.
video games functioned as video games. For me specifically, I was definitely always like excited with like the action, but like I feel like I'm also in like a weird position where I'm not sure how much serious to comedy ratio, as scientifically bland as that sounds, for my Mortal Kombats, because like yeah, I want it to be dumb, but I also need it to be somewhat grounded so I care what kind of story they're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And as much fun as just off the wall nonsense is, you still need something to ground yourself with, and being overly serious or melodramatic, and then you just get some of the stranger choices that they've done even within the Mortal Kombat games. And also some like the TV shows and stuff like that, or any of the web series and stuff like that. So I was just always just like, I don't know what I want from it, but at least I know cool action, and the games have been doing that well with their fight choreographies. So I was like, probably enjoy a nice fight flick, but I didn't have much else besides that.
Yeah.
I definitely, as soon as they showed the trailer and it was like, chosen ones are going to be relevant, I was like, oh my god, no. I don't need
I would definitely
Mortal Kombat isn't exactly the most in-depth franchise, or rather the most innovative franchise, but I will avoid cliches where possible.
I would definitely say when that first trailer dropped, the major concern I was having was that, this was definitely, it was going to be a more violent version than the old
It was
the old
very
one.
blatantly rated R.
Yeah, blatantly rated R.
Oh, yeah.
My one fear going into it was going to be that, like, the fun campiness of Mortal Kombat was not going to be as emphasized as much this time. That's always been a critical part of Mortal Kombat. Looking from the outside, they promote the ultra violence and stuff like that, but when you get into Mortal Kombat, it is dumb. it is very dumb, and it is
it's
very well aware of that, but it just kind of has fun doing it, and keeps up its lore and stuff like that. So that was a little bit.
It's like trying to get Resident Evil's right in like a movie function. Even for like the CG ones, it's like they try to be overly serious, but also kind of have their weird camp to it, and it's a weird formula to mix into a movie.
Yeah. I think it's okay. I definitely think, though, like, this film has a lot of great Mortal Kombat fan service throughout and stuff like that, and I think those are the highlights of the film for me, because there are definitely some deep pulls into here that I really do appreciate. However, as an actual film, I still think the 1995 film is a better production from there. I think it's a better story, even though they're not the main focus of this thing. I think the fights are actually better in that. And I think, in general, characters and scripts are better in there. This one does have the violence and it's more, quote-unquote, accurate to Mortal Kombat, but I think, because we watched the original film right after viewing this one, and you can kind of tell we were having generally more fun with that one than we did this one, I would say, with us.
Oh, I was just having a lot more fun because Reptile's shitty CGI in the first movie.
It's one of the situations where like it's you're having fun with how bad it can be or how dated it is in that kind of situation. Both of these movies, I will absolutely say, like they're probably best with a small group like what we did of being in a comfortable enough spot where you'll respect the movie for when it's trying to do something, but also you'll just make dumb jokes as shit happens, and you're all on the wrong wavelength.
Yeah, like, I don't think this film would be the same way, like, viewing it in theaters kind of deal, which...
no.
Yeah, I don't think it would have the same kind of feeling throughout compared to what we were doing.
Maybe a freaking drive-through. Like, that would actually be a decent environment for this kind of thing. That's not like really an insult. I think that's just a nice setting of like there's a bunch of people watching it, but you're mostly contained to your immediate group.
Yeah.
So
I will say I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I do think that this Mortal Kombat movie is kind of on the same wavelength as the Sonic movie, where like it's a decent start to a film franchise, but if they want to take this off anywhere, the sequel needs to improve on almost everything.
Yeah, and there's one particular thing I think that just needs to go bye-bye, but yeah. we'll get into there as we go on. So.
I do think my general feel for like the overall movie is mostly my biggest issue is the fact that it feels like there's two different movies going on at the same time.
Yes.
They started a movie, and then they cut from it. And then they go to the second movie, and then they get to the end. It's like, all right, here's that first movie again, and everyone's just like, what?
Yeah. I mean, that is one criticism I will definitely say of this film in general, not even just around the script thing. The editing is all over the place in this film.
Yes, it is.
Like, I know I'm jumping way ahead, but there is a specific shot when the group meets up with Liu Kang, and it shows Liu Kang on, like, the sun setting and, like, this big orange sky. We cut back to the group, and it is, like, a blue, like, in the middle of the day sky. But it goes back to that Liu Kang shot, and then back to that. It's like, these are two clearly different scenes that were shot here. It's like, did they wait the entire day for Liu Kang to get to them? Like,
yeah, like I was about to say, like, are these three jackasses just standing in the middle of a desert waiting for this random?
The Mortal Kombat tournament's about to start, guys. We can't be dilly-dallying watching Liu Kang.
I mean, breaking immersion. That's probably exactly what the scene shot process was.
God, yeah. The other
Hurry
one.
Up and wait. The curse of the film industry.
The other one is like there is a specific thing in the final fight where our main character Cole, he has half of his face frozen by Sub-Zero. Also, we should probably say spoilers are throughout this entire discussion.
Yeah,
so
now we're gonna start.
If you haven't seen the movie, don't watch this unless you don't really care. In any case, welcome. But there's a shot with Cole where like half of his face is frozen up. Sub-Zero is knocked away. But then, like, all of his face is totally fine. Like, kind of deal. Right after. Like, no damage or anything. But later shots will show him with damage. It's like, it feels like the shots are out of order throughout this whole film to me.
Yeah.
Or they had like different takes for different things. Yeah, no, there's a little bit of inconsistency between the practical and special effects for what they were showing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess let's start diving in from the beginning. So, the film opens up with Sub-Zero and Scorpion's backstory, where it's the usual. Bihan murders Scorpion's entire family and kills Hanzo Hasashi. Gets dragged onto hell, but the big change is that he has a surviving son.
The biggest change is the prophecy that Scorpion's bloodline is the important one to save the Earth.
Which is really weird. Like it's not a.
I don't know how I feel about that.
It's like not a
So-
lore change. It's not of like, oh, they changed the lore kind of thing that bugs me about it. It's just that, like,
Why?
Scorpion's barely in this movie, for the record. Like, kind
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is like that's definitely one of the biggest elements of like they put a lot of weight on the Scorpion, the character, obviously because it's Scorpion and he's the greatest
because he's
icon
Ed
of this
Boon's
franchise.
boy. Like,
Oh my god, it's Ed Boon.
that is my child.
So- He has to win every single first trailer for a
right?
video game. So yeah, they put all this weight on Scorpion. So you're saying, okay, the movie's about Scorpion. It's gonna be about Hanzo Hasashi and his family, but specifically about him. This is gonna be like this is gonna be MK mythology Scorpion. We kind of advertise it as you at the start of the film, and they start building up to that. And this whole starting stuff is great. Like, there's like some maybe you can make some small nitpicks about certain like elements about that actual scene, but I think this is wonderfully done, and the fight choreography is entertaining.
Oh yeah,
Even
like
though him killing people with the freaking the kunai attached to the rope is a little nonsensical, but at least it's fun.
I would say honestly, I think that and the final fight are the best two fights in the film, and they both just involve Scorpion.
Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Yeah, I know, but I've seen this backstory so many times, kind of deal. But like, I still like this interpretation of it. It plays it very true, except for the whole prophecy thing at the very end. But
I agree with pretty much everything that you guys have already said. Like, I think the whole opening from when we first see the Shirai Ryu in the Fire Gardens up until he gets dragged down to hell, I think it's the best scene in the movie, and it's a beautifully put together shot. Honestly, they could have just released that as its own short film. Automatic 10 out of 10.
I mean, they kind of did that before. I think it was like Mortal Kombat Legacies or something like that. It was like a Machinima live action series that they did before, and the Scorpion one was the best one of that one too. So
Shocker.
But we head to I think
modern day.
The biggest problem with this movie, their OC for this film of Cole, who
potentially studio mandated OC.
Like, especially watching the film, like, yeah, you can feel it throughout this, because Cole is like the descendant of that baby that was saved from Scorpion's home, and is in New York City now as like a boxer character, but
an MMA fighter.
Yeah, an MMA fighter. Yeah, but God, man, he has nothing to do. We follow him throughout this entire film, and he's about as cookie cutter as you can get throughout the.
I don't like Cole.
It's not a disrespect to the actor or anything like that. It's just, man.
Oh, yeah, no, like everyone's did well with what they were given. I even like the write-in. Like, he's fine for what he is. He's certainly fighting through language barriers, you can kind of tell, but he did what he did fine. I no blame for any actor doing anything. Some weird accents here and there for people. Like, I know people like to point out freaking
Cabal.
Yeah, Cabal's voice. It's just like, okay, I see that's what we're going with. Okay.
All right.
I don't get it, but okay.
But
this is fine.
Cole just doesn't.
Cole,
he's just there.
He doesn't matter. Like, he doesn't do anything.
It's the weird thing. It's the weird thing where he's supposed to be like, the audience's like viewpoint character, where for the people that don't know what a Mortal Kombat is, we're supposed to be seeing it through his eyes, Except the problem, every other Earthrealm character is going for the exact same thing in this film.
Yeah.
Furthermore, Kano is a much more entertaining avatar or audience surrogate.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I remember this was a discussion where people said was like you had like the two audiences in the film, which was you had the people who are like, I don't know what a Mortal Kombat is, and while they would like to put that on Nicole, I feel like that's more Sonya.
Yeah.
And then you have the people who are aware of what a Mortal Kombat is, and that's Kano, because they're the ones that are joking about all of it and just going like, okay, whatever, this is stupid.
And it's also weird because like it's very clear they want to make Cole the main character. But then they run into the problem of characters like Liu Kang, who is supposed to be, like, our main protagonist character normally. But now it's just kind of weirdly, he is the protagonist, but not at the same time. It's really weird. And plus, like, characters like Johnny Cage kind of fulfilled the outsider coming in role before. And Johnny Cage is not in this movie besides, like, one poster cameo at the very end.
Piece of shit. I hate this movie.
Bait.
It's a piece of shit. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, okay, that's
That
it.
was a really weird exclusion to not have Johnny Cage.
Yeah,
I do know that like one argument someone said is that especially with how Kano was written or ad-libbed, you honestly couldn't tell, and I don't care. Great. Having him as your resident wisecracker would definitely kind of make it a bit odd to have two people doing it at all times.
That's
and, like,
fair. Yeah.
Because Johnny would want you, everyone would want Johnny to be over the top with it.
Mhm.
At least by comparison to his immediate peers. Like even in the 95 film, like everyone else would definitely like you had Sonya as your straight lace, you had Liu Kang, which was kind of somewhere in the middle but still aware of what's going on. Then you had Johnny just making dumb jokes all the time because he obviously doesn't know what he's into and he kind of doesn't care. And we already kind of had those roles filled in this version, but it was replacing Liu Kang with Sonya. You had Sonya turned into Cole, and then Johnny Cage was Kano.
Yeah.
And then you had that one random guy in the original movie that got killed by Goro, and all of a sudden,
F in chat for that guy.
Yeah, I didn't even know his name. I missed that guy.
I feel like he might have had something, but they cut it. But this isn't about that film. It's about this film.
Cole.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's about Cole or whoever that is.
Yeah, I'm just not like, and like we were saying, this is no ill will towards the actor or anything. Cole's boring. He is so.
It's also very poorly established. Like even at the start, it's like they're trying to tell us that like he's a good fighter, but he like gives up too early or something like that. I guess.
Yeah.
But even like his relationship with his wife and daughter, I suppose they're supposed to be their relationship. It was very hard to tell until like halfway through the movie when they explicitly say "my wife."
Yeah.
Because like you have his daughter who's like supporting him at like the ringside for his fights, and I'm just like, who is?
Yeah.
Is this like the orphan he picked up or something like that? I don't know what the relationship is.
Yeah.
Like, the problem with Cole is just every character that you have seen in this kind of movie before, but especially with all the other characters in this cast, he doesn't really have any dynamic with any other character. He definitely feels for trying to force himself into this movie kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason, like, he has any relevance to the plot is Sub-Zero hunting him down all the time because he's just hot on
because of
his
his heritage, which is mostly just a means to the end to eventually get to the Sub-Zero versus Scorpion rematch.
Yeah.
We were talking about it when we were watching the film, but we were just like, because they have this whole Arcana system, which is, we'll get more into that later, but we were just like, I swear if he does a shadow kick or he gets the Scorpion Flame Max, like, I'm gonna be mad. Like, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, he was blatantly just trying to be another character kind of deal. And his Arcana literally becomes plot armor by the end, for the record.
Yeah.
But,
It literally is plot armor.
But yeah, like...
But anyway, the progression, then moving on from there, so we can actually get some more of the plot. You get introduced to Cole, everyone's just like, okay. And then Sub-Zero shows up, he's like, yo, first he introduced to Jax, who shows that he's kind of aware what's going on and can help lead Cole to the path of the plot. And then Sub-Zero shows up to do his assassinating, as you do.
Which, the most, I will say definitely Sub-Zero's action scenes, I think, are the consistently most entertaining ones throughout. Because
Mhm.
Like, Sub-Zero is a horror movie character throughout this entire film. He doesn't have much dialogue. He just hunts them down for the entire time.
Yeah, he
And
has definitely learned some things from fighting Freddy Krueger and Jason in the recent games.
yes. We get the entire Jax fight with him, which is great. You know, he does
Great.
he does his usual stuff for like freezing the bullet in air and then freezes Jack's arms where they explode, and then Jax tumbles backwards, and like I am shocked Jack survived that fall because he hit like 5 different things on the way down, flat onto
Yeah.
the cement. Like, he's dead. He is actually dead. Like,
Yeah, like when the moment like the back of his head hits something, that's like, oh, you're dead. You should be dead.
like, are you sure the hands are the thing that need the robot parts, and not the back of his head that should be just caved open, like kind of deal?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, no. Great beatdown. Leads Cold eventually to Sonya, who has already captured Kano, who had killed one of the other chosen ones, so
Yeah.
she's kind of stuck with him.
Well, yeah, you got the little Arcana dragon tattoo, which is how apparently you're chosen for Mortal Kombat in this world.
And how you get your superpowers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to get into that at this point of the whole...
Let's just
Yeah,
rip the
so
Band-Aid
we-
off.
Yeah. So do we want to start with the Arcana, or do we want to talk about a positive note?
Let's get to the Arcana, I think, because
Yeah.
Let's get out of the
let's
way now.
It's stupid. It's dumb.
the Arcana...
I
They
do
decide
not
to
like it.
they want to explain the power system of the universe, but that's just not needed.
The problem is that the Arcana thing runs into the... They want to explain, you know, how do, like, normal humans get all these extraordinary powers kind of thing, but it kind of runs into that realm of, okay, but none of the Outworld characters get this explanation kind of thing, so they're not... Are they working off of the same power system, or... it runs
Power
into...
system only works if it's universal.
Yeah, the problem is by trying to give an explanation, you're now subconsciously thinking of that power system, and now you're thinking, wait, that doesn't make sense. Wait, hold on. By trying to explain it, the less sense it actually makes now.
Yeah,
At
it's
that
over
point.
explaining.
Because like I don't know if there was like a deleted scene that got shown that had the Outworld characters with the dragon tattoos, and if they showed that, like if they genuinely showed, like, you know, characters like Cabal and Molina and all these other characters, if they had the dragon tattoo, it would make a bit more sense, and I think it'd be a bit
Well,
more
it would make sense with
justified.
Cabal because he is human, but he just got hired to fight into a different realm.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if you're only going to do that for the Earthrealm characters, what's the point?
And, like, I guess you're supposed to infer that's where Scorpion got his powers from, because Quan Chi and, like, Shinnok, they're not part of this movie at all, or not even mentioned, so Scorpion just comes in with hell powers at the final act of this film.
And it's Shang Tsung who disappears with Sub-Zero in order to eventually make Noob Saibot, supposedly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like we don't have our typical necromancers.
Yeah.
We only have the first one.
It was like the
And all he
Arcana...
does is suck souls.
The Arcana, like, the only ones I think that kind of made sense with is, like, Kung Lao. It's like, okay, if you need to give an explanation for, like, how does he do his teleport stuff, then okay.
Yeah, teleportation's a
It
weird.
makes sense. Like,
It's
characters
a weird
like
system
Kung
even
Lao,
in the
maybe
actual
Luke
universe.
kinda work.
Yeah. So, like, okay, that's fine. But then there's ones like Sonya, where Sonya's is to, like, shoot laser beams from her arms, which is really weird because the game's always made the thing of just, like, she just had, like, metal things on her arms that shot the beams. Like,
Yeah.
that never was, like, an inherent part of her body that fired it. Same with,
And like Sonya isn't even like the most egregious example because like you can see that it's like, all right, fine, it's just another energy bolt thing. People are doing this.
Yeah.
The real problem is with Jack, but let's
Oh,
get to
God.
Jax, I should say, but we'll get to him.
Oh my
Jax
god.
one, oh my God.
Jesus.
That's the one where this whole thing just falls the fuck apart.
That's where Jax has like these little tiny baby metal arms later on when he's trying to rehabilitate, and then his Arcana kicks in, and he just gets the full metal arms from that? Like, huh?
that was the part where I was just like, okay, this whole thing is just really stupid.
Like, it makes just give him the full metal arms from the start. Like, that makes more...
Like,
Like, make
It's even weird
make
'cause,
that
like,
the
does that
ground
mean-
pound or something like that.
Exactly. If his Arcana power was the ground pound and like the effects on his arms, I would completely understand that. But his Arcana is actually the metal art. No, that's just stupid.
If he didn't get his arms ripped off, then what would he have done then? Like, kind of
Would he just lose his arms anyway?
like, does he become Goro and like grow 2 metal arms from his adamant or something like that?
Oh,
Like,
Jesus.
It's a means to the end, and they broke backwards, and it doesn't work.
I remember.
Yeah.
I think the thing is like Tevi. I remember you talking about 2 other characters for like if they make a second film of this. Cyrax and Sector are just gonna absolutely use
yeah.
this Arcana to
Yeah,
explain how they become robots, like kind of deal.
Yeah, I will be extremely stupid if they bring this whole Arcana thing back for the second movie and justify the Cyberlink initiative with that. I think that's gonna be really
The
stupid. if they do that.
Cyberlink are all about to become Power Rangers of just like showing their Arcana. It's morphin time, like.
Linquay, robots in disguise.
Yeah, the power system is just unnecessary. No one needs it. No one wanted it.
I think the big thing, like this, just one last comment on it. This is kind of one of the things where, like, say, the Castlevania Netflix show, I think, kind of does a better job when it comes to this kind of thing because it is not afraid to be video gamey in that. The Cyclops can shoot a giant laser beam from its eyes. Why? It can. Yeah, it's like. It's easier to just not try and give it an explanation, just let it be its source material.
Or sometimes just magic is real. Like as long as you introduce it in a somewhat organic way, it's fine. Like hell, like to talk about like what's a good example? Frozen. In the first movie, you don't know why Elsa has ice powers. Who the fuck cares? She has ice powers.
Yeah, it's like, do they give Sub-Zero an explanation for why he has ice powers in this? No, but he's like the best, one of the better characters in this movie, honestly, because of that.
Yeah,
like you don't have to explain it unless it's like a change up, like say going from the 2 power systems of JoJo. Like, yeah, you kind of need to explain why you're suddenly having a new system, but otherwise it's like, yeah, no, it makes sense. It's here. People use it. Done.
Yeah.
So I guess
the plot.
I guess to talk a little bit more positive, to talk a little bit more positive, the other thing that's introduced in Sonya's little RV that she has there is Kano, who is absolutely the best thing in this movie, hands down.
Oh my god,
Full
I
stop.
love Kano in
He is
this
so
movie.
smarmy.
Oh my god, like this is how you do it, guys. This is how you do it. This is how you make a really good character.
I mean, the rumor that's going around is that he improv most of his dialogue, and I can kind of feel it, like, compared to a lot of this.
I
wouldn't be surprised.
And that ends up being the best part of the freaking movie.
It's like,
he works as well because he's working off of Sonya. I will absolutely give that, because you can't have Smarm unless you have a straight man to work off of.
Yeah.
And he's just smarmy enough, and Sonya has just enough good responses to it. And then it's even elevated in later scenes with Kung Lao and Liu Kang, especially Kung Lao. He's so smarm.
Which, you know, he's definitely got a bit of Johnny Cageism in him for the way he talks and stuff like that. But I think the other thing that really works is that, you know, Kano has always been like, you know, a jobber villain throughout Mortal Kombat's history kind of deal.
Yeah.
But in this film, he's kind of an anti-hero for most of it until he just turns into a villain by the end. But for that, you get a lot of conversations he normally wouldn't have in any of the games. Like, what I think one of his best scenes is that dinner scene he has with all the other characters, kind of deal. Because that conversation just doesn't happen in the games, whatsoever. And I think that's one of the more interesting, okay, how do these characters interact when they're not trying to absolutely gouge each other's eyes out, you know?
But also the transition from there is they meet up with Sonya. Sonya shows a wall of references to tell about how Mortal Kombat has been going on for 10 tournaments now. So what was it, 1,000 years, 100 years? I forget what the time frame is.
1,000 years.
Yeah, I think it's like every 100 years.
Yeah, traditionally in the lore, the tournament happens every like 100 years or so, or like every 500
generation.
years.
Which this
Every
whiteboard gives us a few of our first good references from like Kotal Khan and stuff like that. You can see on the board.
Kotal Khan, Nightwolf.
Yeah, that is. I think that is like one of the best parts about this movie is if you were a Mortal Kombat fan, you are going to notice almost every single reference that they throw at you, and it is amazing.
They do throw a lot of fun fan service into
especially
scenes, yes. I do think of some dumb
ca-
comments like, "Oh, he misspelled combat." Is like, okay, that's a little unnecessary, but some of the window dressings is very nice.
There's definitely
Yeah.
stuff in the script that I feel of like when you're directly trying to reference the game, like that don't quite land. Of like that the cake line of whenever they have to do like the flawless victory when it was clearly not a flawless victory in that battle whatsoever kind of deal.
Yeah.
Or
like,
they
it's still dumb even in the '95 film, but I feel like we were somewhat more accepting of it back then.
Or the little kid just keeps saying of use your uppercut like every time and like
like that's not even. Why would you use an uppercut? You want to sweep, which we'll get to that.
Yeah, you want your combo openers, my man. Come on. But, so then they have a big battle with Reptile in there. Who
Mostly it was an invisible slasher monster, and I think it was well done for the most part. Some weird editing there, along with some other fight scenes, but the actual idea was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, a personal thing. I kind of wish he did become kind of human-esque at one point because he's just kind of a jobber reptile monster, which I get that he says, but I always like human reptile a little bit more. That's just me personally, but you know.
Yeah, like the type of reptile that we got in like Mortal Kombat X, you know?
Yeah.
Like to where he's still partially like Zaterran, but at the same time he's also speaking and not just making gurgly reptile noises.
Like in the original Mortal Kombat movie, they actually had a pretty good compromise on that, where he just inherits that one body, but he becomes a ninja. He still is a reptile though. You know.
Still contrived, but at least you're somewhat more willing to go with it.
Yeah.
But, you know, the actual fight scene was fine. Definitely showed let Kano show off his stuff a bit.
Yeah, and Kano got his fatality in, which is like one of our first major like gore moments of the film.
Yeah, a genuine compliment. I think the gore parts that they have in this movie are really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
not too over the top, but
like I would say it's around like MK9 levels of, you know, the gore. I would say. For that, it's not MK11 kind of levels of god,
or like your
I don't know
slasher films.
I don't know if we're ever gonna see like that kind of stuff in a Mortal Kombat movie if we ever go MK11 in this. But the gore that they did have, with the exception of like maybe one scene, which I'll bring it up when we actually get to that point in the movie. But what they did have overall, I thought was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then this leads them to using Kano to find the location for the tournament. Because actually, like, the big thing they're explaining is you were approaching MK10, the 10th tournament. And Shang Tsung is like, we're not going to do the tournament. We're going to cheat and just kill all the combatants before they ever show up. And it's like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Like, I won't argue the logic. I think it's a bit dumb, but I can't argue the logic.
I do love when they're trying to convince Kano to join the tournament, and Sonya's just like, okay, 1 million, and Kano's just like, bullshit, 2. It's like, 3! Alright, fine, you know.
I love that he's first like, you don't have 3 million, you live here. And
yeah, you live
she
in
lies through her teeth, of course. And then she's like, no, bullshit, I can do this. I'm an agent, blah, blah, blah. And the follow-up's like, do you really have 3 million? She's like, fuck no. I live here.
That is probably Sonya's best straight-up line in the whole film. It's just like, the fuck no. From there...
We transition to our desert scenes, which leads to just fun interactions and a fun, quick spat between Kano and Sonya.
Yeah.
Mostly just to prove a point.
Yeah. Which then they meet up with Liu Kang and head over to Raiden's temple, where they also meet up with Kung Lao.
Raiden looks at his prospects and it's like, oh, we're fucked.
Wait, it's a bit of a weird thing, because, like, Raiden in this film, you know, like, I know people are very mixed on how they feel about Christopher Lambert's Raiden back in the original Mortal Kombat, because he's not very Raiden at all in that.
Yeah, and again, we didn't really know
very,
who
like,
Raiden was
Raiden.
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not very Raiden-esque, but this was also the time before Raiden got his rework essentially role in like MK.
Yeah, because Raiden was just a guy at the tournament. He's just like a god who's like, I want to participate, so I'll possess like this monk's body so I can fight. Like that was originally Raiden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's like, I'm a god here and I'm the mentor type and I suck at my job.
Yeah, and like not only do I think I'm sorry, Christopher Lambert was the guy in the original.
Yes.
Not only do I think that Christopher Lambert did a better job with Raiden, I still think that like the Raiden in the games was better than this one. I did not like Raiden in this movie.
He was overly subdued in this one.
And it's weird because like Raiden in this one, he's like just saying like fuck y'all to every one that comes in. It's like you're running out. Like wasn't the whole thing was like you were on like
all awful. I won't even do more than the bare minimum to even try to keep you people safe.
Which is really weird because it's like you're one victory away from losing, Raiden. Like you kind of want all the help you can get. Like I would think, you know.
He's doing the weird thing where it's like, oh, the gods must keep their hands out of these measures, and it's like all of your combatants are dying. I think it's one of those weird moral things. It would work better in something else that was better written around it. But no.
Because like you look at these scenarios and you think, okay, if this was like the MK10 or MK11 Raiden, he would have been doing something, and like Raiden's a dick, but he's not supposed to be this much of an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, even like comparing like Raiden, and especially I'm mostly looking at MK9. It's like as soon as people were like clearly breaking the rules, he would step in.
Yeah.
The moment Shao Kahn snaps Kung Lao's neck in Mortal Kombat 9, he was immediately murder that asshole.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you broke the rules. It's a no hold bars now. And then of course Liu Kang then runs in to get a revenge, and that's fine. Then we have that terrible boss fight. But and also like into MK3 is like, yes, we won. We won super hard, and it's like we're gonna invade anyway. He's like, well, I guess I'm gonna fight now. Like he's not gonna stay hands off at the moment people take the gloves off. And clearly, Shang Tsung was already doing that here in this movie. So it's like, why are you just holding them back?
Which I guess
I'm just gonna put this little protection bubble up with my very vulnerable stick.
Yeah, it's weird because like they go through a whole process to get into Raided Temple, but later when Outworld invades the temple, like they just waltz right in, like kind of deal, like.
Hello.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so I guess your security isn't really that good then if they can just waltz in, no problem at that point. Wow.
But yeah, Raiden sucks.
Yeah.
In this movie.
And
Raiden was poorly utilized.
Unfortunately, that's also kind of how I feel about Shang Tsung as well, because
I agree.
Shang Tsung really just feels there, and he doesn't really have.
He fills his role just fine, but he doesn't really have much to him in his
Maybe
minutes.
it's just another thing of like compared to the original movie, but in the original movie, I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but Kari Hiroko Sakuma, I'm sorry if I pronounced that completely wrong, but the actor that played Shang Tsung in that, he eats up every scene he's in, kind of deal, and just has a great presence to him. There's a reason why they brought him back for MK11, Shang Tsung, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But in this film, he doesn't really get to do anything. He doesn't even feel like the big bad of this, especially because we know Shao Kahn is just lurking in the background somewhere, you know.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, can I talk about something like really, really quickly?
Okay, all right.
I think we skipped over it a little bit before we got to.
I know what you're gonna bring
like, right when they enter the temple, you see like all of these murals of like past moments from the different Mortal Kombat games. Like you see Argus and Adania. You see
that was the weirdest one.
Yeah.
You see like some stuff with the Lin Kuei. You see freaking Shao Kahn in his MK11 design, and it's God, I
bring back to your earlier statement, going over it like many people wish to. They explicitly put a Mortal Kombat Armageddon reference in there. Wholeheartedly, no hold bar, and I was like, "Oh wow, we're doing this."
I think to just talk about now, probably the biggest pulls for I think of just like deep Mortal Kombat references. Reiko and Nitara are in this film.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Reiko and Natara, my god, I didn't think they were gonna pull anything from those games,
Yeah,
but
like
they did.
that is a
Like,
deep
it's-
pull on them kind of deal to bring them in for Outworld.
It's like the initial fears people had for like the Detective Pikachu. It's like it's just gonna be a bunch of Gen 1 stuff with some spatterings of other stuff, and then you get in, it's like, oh no, they're going all the way with a whole bunch of stuff. It's
Yeah.
really well thought out, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
because like you think about it, like characters like Natara. I don't know much about Natara, but characters like Reiko, they were literally like Reiko was literally this
Discounts
guy that was
Shao
like,
Kahn.
yeah.
the random guy that just comes along. He's like, hey, I want to be Shao Kahn.
And then the writers were like, but Shao Kahn's too cool, so he's back. So you're no longer allowed to become the new Shao Kahn. He's like, oh.
Aw, I want to be evil
And then, for
Gohan.
and then in the background, they really wanted to push him in the Reiko Accord's still one of the weirdest things to come out of MKX. Like, Reiko wasn't important. You're not important. Stop trying to make him important.
Well, they killed him off in the comics, and it was like, okay, why does this asshole get the Accords named after him? Okay, just call it the Ermac Accords. Ermac's there. He's cool.
Which I guess talked about the Outworld Forces because Outworld's team is kind of like comprised of those two, Sub-Zero, and then Cabal and Molina.
And Molina, yeah.
Molina's a bit of the weird one because like Kitara, we only see her fans as part of Radiant's Temple, but she's not in the film at all.
Yeah, Katana's just referenced.
Which is
Very
really
subtle.
weird to have Molina before Kitana, honestly. On that. And for Molina, like, she was fine. Like, I initially wasn't sure how to feel about like the mouth because like the teeth weren't really that sharp until
It's very
like,
subdued.
until like the very end. I'm like, oh, okay, there it is. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
I thought that was a really, really cool way to do Molina's
Yeah.
design because like I think like the best design that Molina's ever had is MKX. I thought that was the perfect fusion between Adanian and Tarkatan, and then they just completely screwed it up in MK11. But I thought that this movie was a great way to interpret that.
It's especially weird with the Tarkan because like you think they would put Baraka in as a jobber before Molina.
Yeah, like you think they would do because like
Well, Molina
yeah,
doesn't
like,
job per se, but yeah.
yeah, like Molina kicks some ass in this movie, but you know, just do
Well, the
Baraka.
climax happens, they have to make it
Yeah.
sure our protagonist can win everything because they're just so motivated and strong.
Yeah, like it's weird that they do the half-bred Tarkatan before doing the full-bred Tarkatan. You know?
I guess for the sequel maybe, but
I guess I don't know.
but I guess getting back to plot stuff, the
Got a
Earthrealmers
train.
the Earthrealmers got a train to get their Arcana in there, and from this like training montage we get straight up the best scene in this whole film because
Best joke.
it's
Best scene in the franchise. Honestly.
it's-
Best scene in the franchise.
it's Cabal and I think it's Liu Kang are
Not Cabal, Kano.
Kano, sorry, my bad. It's Kano and Liu Kang are squaring off. Liu Kang sweep kicks him like, you know, game on. He gets up, he sweep kicks him again, and then he
Now
like,
he's pissed off.
and then he like, Liu Kang fakes him out on a sweep kick. Kano jumps, and then he just sees it coming like, fuck, and then just gets sweep kicked again.
It's like, ha! Ah, fuck.
it was so perfect and so like absolutely like true to the franchise roots. It's just a really funny scene. We had to pause the movie. We were laughing so hard from that one. It was
Yeah.
it, like
Legitimately laughed out loud.
this film might be mediocre, but like I will appreciate that scene. That scene was incredible on this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really wish that we had like more moments, like more comedic moments like that.
Because
Yeah.
I do feel like this film is definitely missing in the cheese factor of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, there were
Most-
a lot of times in this film where it felt like they were being a little bit too serious with it.
And even like their like more jokey stuff, sometimes it's more just like looking at like, oh, isn't it weird that this is a video game movie? Like that's kind of somehow some of the jokes kind of landed with some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, if anyone who wasn't like Kano, since Kano was just saying whatever the fuck he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Which
But fantastic scene.
Which I think that's like one of my favorite Kano moments as well, or of like they're talking about like I forget what the exact context was of like they're talking about something horrible, and then you can just hear in the distance Kano just like the wah wah. And my favorite part of that one is just you can totally tell that it's not Kano's actual mic, it's just like the studio mic that was like you can so tell that was an improv thing they put into that scene kind of deal after that.
It's like the equivalent of when The Simpsons had like I don't know if it's like Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that, and like they had a bunch of guys walk into Mo's bar. They're like, "Hey Mo, hey Mo," and then one of the other guys just screamed it from the back, "Hey Mo!" And they were like, "Did that catch on camera on microphone?" It's like, "Yeah, no, that was fine. We'll just write the scene around it now."
We get to the scene that I was talking about before, where they're all at this table, and they're just it's probably the best Kung Lao moment where to get Kano's Arcana, he just starts kind of antagonizing him, just pushing him over the edge until he gets pissed enough to shoot an eye laser. You know,
which is his Arcana, which is a little goofy.
A little goofy, but it's not as egregious as Jax's one.
Yeah, Jax's one is still the funniest thing.
But like, it's a good character moment for Liu Kang because you don't really get to see not Liu Kang, Kung Lao. It's just
Kung Lao and Kano, yeah.
Interesting speaking to his character that we don't get to see much of the games, and I like that. Again, it's interesting having Kano on this side, which I feel like when he just eventually becomes evil is a little like, I kind of want to see this play out a little longer, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very, like, you know, when they brought in Kung Lao, like, well, I love how they brought him in. I loved his entrance. And
where he does, like, teleport in.
Yeah, I just loved how he interacted with all the other characters. And something I was very surprised that they didn't do for Kung Lao is, like, they didn't really bring any of his like cockiness or like
It kind of did, but it was more subdued than you would think. Like
the
big part of like the actual like table scene is mostly like Kung Lao playing up how much hot shit he is, and even Liu Kang kind of doing it too because I mean he's related to the great Kung Lao. His family has history, so and he's been training here longer, so clearly they have a lot of writing on him. So yeah, and then he kind of acts like a conky shit. Somewhat to push Kano, but also probably to flaunt his stuff.
Yeah,
and it works in helping antagonize Kano there.
Yeah, like they primarily do it when like they're trying to antagonize Kano so he can get his Arcana, but like the other times I didn't really notice it that much, and I was kind of surprised.
It was mostly in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like into that of later. Raiden just has enough of Cole, and it's just like go back and be a family man, kind of deal. To push him to like
failure. You can't do anything.
Push him to the Hawkeye house in the middle of the woods, where his family is.
Yeah, where he left his family.
And that's when Shang Tsung is just like, okay, there will be no tournament, everybody die. Which that's a bit of a weird thing. There's not an actual tournament in this movie whatsoever.
Yeah,
it's the lead up to the attempt to stop the tournament. It's a bit odd of a
like
setup.
this is kind of the weird thing where just like they're trying to introduce of like the whole tournament system. Really, that doesn't mean anything in terms of this movie, of like any of the they need 9 wins to win this tournament, this big thing. Really, it's just them invading like Earthrealm because they can. They're doing the Mortal Kombat 3 thing, before.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's like the mindset is like we already have 9 wins, so let's just have them lose by default in case they somehow pull out pull something out of the ringer. And again, I was like, that's fine, but it's weird to have that be the whole plot of the movie.
It would be fine as a B plot kind of thing, where maybe Shang Tsung sends Sub-Zero to like start eliminating them, before the tournament started, and we still have the actual tournament. But for that to be the A plot of the film, it's really weird,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like now like obviously they jumping the gun ahead of here. They set up the sequel. They're gonna go find more fighters for the tournament. So obviously the tournament is happening the next movie, but I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go for the tournament in this movie.
I guess to make it different than the original, but like
I guess, but come on,
it's a very
Mortal
weird
Kombat,
call.
and the name
Yeah.
of the movie is the tournament.
I know, right? Yeah. Which then we get the big group fight, which the group fights in this
Yeah,
film
the
is
government
really
paid people to keep them down.
like the group fights are really where I think I have the most problem with the editing, because it's like they don't let the fight play out. They just have to cut to like 5 different fights at the same time, so like they don't really flow in any of
Yeah.
these, because there's like the
Yeah.
fight with Goro at the house. There's like Cabal versus Liu Kang, Kung Lao versus Nitara, like Molina and
Sonya?
Sonya and Cabal, kinda like.
You mean Kano?
Kano. I don't know why I keep saying Cabal. The
They both
Cabal.
start with K's.
Cabal gets probably the funniest out of context line in this movie. He's about to get his soul sucked. Like, what is that line? It's out of
I mean, it's accurate.
Yo, he's getting fucked up, boy. Like.
So yeah, like the whole thing is that Kano and Cabal have a heart to heart, and it's just like, and it's actually a pretty decent scene of like, you're supposed to be the leader of the Black Dragon. Why don't you act like the leader of the fucking Black Dragon? And then Kano's like, I fucking will. So then he destroys the barrier, lets them all in, and joins the bad guys.
Yeah,
And I feel like that was a decent initiating that incident.
yeah, it's kind of a reverse of what happened in MK9, where it was Kano trying to get Cabal back into the Black Dragon. But I still
they
think it
worked
was
with the roles
effective. I still
differently.
think it worked. Yeah.
So, from this fight, you get, the Arcana of Coal, which, the literal plot armor, and Goro gets a pretty brutal death, which I was surprised they killed him that early in this.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, before the tournament even starts again, like what we were talking before, considering he's the penultimate guy in, this sport.
But he was never that important.
But
It wasn't until the
you-
movie that he was given any real importance, because he was just the guy before the final boss.
You know what, boys? That's just one step. That's one step closer to Kentaro. I will take it.
Who knows? Maybe because Goro does get killed by the plot armor. Which even the power is stupid. He gets plot armor, he can make it turn into weapons. We made a joke that he just got the freaking style switch system. He was the style switch system turned into a character.
I was waiting for like when he brought out the Tonfas, I was just like, is he supposed to be like a descendant of Tanya now? Like kind of deal from MK Hex and Boar? Like
Clearly he's mocap.
But like Goro gets a pretty good death, but Liu Kang, why do I keep saying Liu Kang? Kung Lao, God.
The names are pretty similar for a reason.
Kung Lao gets basically every of like MK9 X fatality where he gets. It's like as soon as we saw that hat go on the ground like a buzzsaw kind of thing, we're like, oh no. Like
It's gonna happen.
We knew exactly.
Like how the scene works is like he gets picked up by Nintara and they're having somewhat of an aerial fight, and he's able to redirect her to launch her down. He throws the hat ahead of him to land into the ground as the buzzsaw, and then he just rides her body into it and just puts her head right through the middle of it, and it was so gruesome. I loved it.
It was
perfect.
absolutely the best fatality in this movie. Full stop kind of deal.
Kano's was pretty good, but that buzzsaw, man.
Like that one just feels like that would just be like a new fatality they would put in kind of deal. Like it fits perfectly.
Well done. And then of course because we need someone to die in this scene, he gets jobbed by Shang Tsung in a somewhat of a callback to the 95 film.
Yeah.
Liu Kang must have a family member die in front of him to
Even though he's not the main character of this film, but like he needs to have to again.
He needs his pathos.
It's really weird. They want Cole to be the main character, but everybody else has more stakes in this.
He's not even
everybody hates Liu Kang.
All my homies hate Liu Kang.
All my homies hate Liu Kang.
So
that's just what you get for having the default character.
Yeah. So
default protagonist.
That the heroes just decide to fight back on their.
They join to the group, and then Cole finally, because he has the plot armor and he feels good about himself, he decides he can take control of the group and tell everyone what to do because he's the main character. Don't you know, audience? Like, it's a total 180. Like, this motherfucker hasn't accomplished shit in the entirety of this film. Then he gets a new set of armor that was just spawned out of the ether, and he's like, all right, I'm hot shit now. And it's like, no, it is not.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different fights happening at once where, again, that editing problem comes in. But there's Kano versus Sonya. That one's okay. The Cabal.
I liked it as a contrast to the rest of them.
Yeah, Cabal and Liu Kang. The only thing I really remember from that is the fire dragon. You know.
Yeah, the fatality, which the effects were pretty good.
Yeah, the one that kind of made me mad was Jax. And like,
yes,
Yeah.
Describe the scene. Pat.
Okay, so he's beating up Renko, you know, and they're
well, first we have to set the scene first. So all right, when Jax was at the temple, which they had picked up so that they could give him monk robot arms, don't ask. And then he has his hero moment to then grow his metal arms. We all ask, like we said, it's dumb. So then it's like, all right, he has a grudge match against Reiko. So then he gets sent over to fight Reiko at the
pit.
I forget what it's called.
The pit.
Yeah, at the pit.
Yeah, you know, the classic
At the
Mortal Kombat
iconic
pit
area.
stage. Yeah.
It's like, all right, we're gonna have the grudge match, and that means we're gonna have a stage fatality. And he doesn't.
He does his normal, you know, head smash fatality, and the rest of us were just like, "What?" Like the pit is right there. Like, come on.
You're gonna go to a stage that is infamous for its stage fatality, and you're not gonna do a motherfucking stage fatality?
Come on. Like,
why is he even there then?
it's like okay, can we go to, like, you know, the throne room or something like that? You know.
Yeah, like,
Acid pits and some motherfucker isn't getting their skin melted. Like, why even?
Why are we even there at that point? You know.
I will say, like, the fight with Liu Kang and Cabal, was that the fight with the statues?
Maybe like, because they were on the pit. I think that was the Liu Kang part of the fight. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Either way, those were some nice statues. That's about all I remember. Those were some nice statues.
Also, yeah, Cole was fighting Molina until Sonya comes back with her new powers to.
Yeah.
I forget if she blasts her chest out or her head off, but it's still some good effects. Though it's just kind of anticlimactic.
And then we get to the actual final fight with
which was like, hey Cole, I stole your family because you're the only person that supposedly matters in this plot.
Which okay, I do want to mention, we did mention Sub-Zero before, but I was kind of waiting because Sub-Zero has like this black mist effect around him, and I was waiting for the entire film for him to become Noob Saibot because I thought that's where we were going, you know, throughout the.
I didn't get it. I don't know if that was just because, like, they wanted to, like, kind of hint to everyone, oh, he's going to become Noob Saibot in this franchise, or if
they really like the black color scheme, so they just wanted to lean into it more.
Because he's evil.
Wait,
yeah.
I have no idea.
Which, I mean, I was kind of waiting for when they killed Sub-Zero, he would be resurrected, like, almost immediately as Noob Saibot or something like that, because, you know, that is always something I felt that I was kind of surprised that this reboot universe never took advantage of, because, like, you know, Hanzo Sashi and Bihan never met as their resurrected selves, you know, kind of deal, as Scorpion and Noob Saibot. So I thought that's where they were going with this, but, like, I guess not. Maybe the next film, but yeah. So they fight.
Is more or less a freaking striker, not to reference him, for the good guys right now. So it's we'll have the grudge match again because they can't stop.
So
yeah, I don't know, man.
But yeah, Cole's just fighting him, and then Scorpion comes in last minute. You probably forgot about him in this movie, but he comes in to steal the W.
Like, they tried to do like a full circle thing. It was like Sub-Zero was like, I stole your wife and kid. I brought them to the fight arena that you've been doing because I know this is important to you for some reason. And we're going to have our big climactic battle. I'm going to snuff out the Shira Ryu bloodline forever. And he's winning because, of course, he is. And Cole just happens to have, like, Scorpion's kunai from way back when. I don't even remember how he got it.
I think Raiden gave it to him, if I'm remembering that
It's
right.
like a memento or something. Yeah, like I forget.
But like,
yeah, Raiden must have given it to him because he's the one who picked it up after Scorpion got pulled to hell.
yeah.
So it's like, this is like a part of your legacy or your heritage or something. I forget the exact scene, especially since I just crossed right over to get to the fight scenes. But yeah, that's the MacGuffin that they gave to him so that they could create a blood connection to allow Scorpion to teleport to where he needs to go.
Like, again, Scorpion's handled really weird because they keep, like, wanting to just, like, vaguely foreshadow him, but, like, again, his whole Spectre Hellfire powers is never really explained. He just kind of has it, you know?
Like, that one's kind of needs even the least amount of explanation because he's like, it's weird that he's just like, he dies, like, right trying to crawl on his last legs to get to his child. He dies, and then he's just sucked into hell, and it's just like, okay.
There's literally no explanation as to why he goes to, like, Quan Chi's not in this movie. You know, none of the other, like, aside from Shang Tsung, who barely does anything with sorcery, none of the other sorcerers are in this movie. So, what is Hanzo just destined to go to hell?
And I know we talked about the Arcana thing before, but this was like the one of the few characters that kind of actually needs it because he kind of becomes our main character at the end of this film. So
yeah,
like, how did he do that? You know. But from an audience perspective, if you know nothing about Scorpion, that's gonna make zero sense, you know.
It's another situation where they felt like they wrote backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely where the as you were mentioning before, Savan, this is definitely where that 2 different movies thing kicks in big time. Because again, Scorpion's like barely mentioned throughout is like not a part of the rest of the film besides the beginning. And then he just comes into the end to settle this.
Like, this is my fight now. This is the grudge match you've all been waiting for. And it's like, and everyone who doesn't know what Mortal Kombat is like, I guess.
Like, I mean, the fight is good, but like,
the fight is great.
Yeah,
but like, it's just, it means nothing for the 80% of the film.
Yeah, so
it doesn't help also that you have constant cuts of Cole trying to save his family by punching the ice that is surrounding them.
That was a tough. Like, I was just like, you're gonna blow their brain out, dude. As soon as like one chunk of ice goes wrong.
Not only is it obviously not doing anything, like, because he's basically like hitting a punching bag. It doesn't look great, but it's also just ruining the pacing of the fight with Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
And while Cole's assists when he's forced to interact with it are pretty cool, you could have done that with any character. Not who cares about Cole?
Yeah, he could have.
So they beat Scorpion. He does his.
You mean Sub-Zero?
Sorry, yes. Scorpion beats Sub-Zero, flames him up, and then Shang Tsung is just like, well, shit, that didn't work. Okay.
Well, I guess we'll have the real tournament.
All right, I guess we're doing this now.
And then
I'm gonna go back down.
Then the film pretty much just ends right after that.
It's like, we're gonna go find Johnny Cage.
We'll find Johnny Kage.
Potentially played by Ryan Reynolds.
Which
I'm sure it's still up in the air, but when people were saying that, it's like, he looks pretty good for Johnny Cage. I would accept that.
Oh my god, I would love Ryan Reynolds as Johnny Cage. I think that would be amazing.
I just don't know if this film would have the budget for him, kind of deal. But yeah, that's kind of Mortal Kombat. There's no post-credits scene either or anything like that. I was a little surprised by that, honestly, because with how much setup they're doing, I would think maybe show Shao Kahn or something like that, or
Yeah, that's what I was surprised about. Like the fact, like they tease Shao Kahn a lot in this movie with like the one image and the statue of Shao Kahn, and then he's like just not teased like in live action. Like I want to see that outfit in live action.
Even the 95 film started with just like, hey, we won the tournament, it's all safe, and Shao Kahn shows up in the sky and he's like, fuck you, and everyone's like, all right, I guess we're fighting. It's like, yeah, no, that's what we needed. Right into it. Sequel bait.
But yeah, as a whole, this film's just okay. You know,
It's fine.
It's fine.
yeah.
Mortal Kombat fans will have fun as long as you don't get too much into the details.
Yeah, but I definitely feel like I will still go back and watch the original Mortal Kombat film because I think that's just more fun and a better thing.
It has some weird pacings, absolutely, for the time, but at least the whole idea is straightforward.
Yeah,
It starts with Kung or Liu Kang. Yeah, we make fun of you. Having the problem. You start with Liu Kang, and he's like, Shang Tsung killed my brother. I want revenge. It leads all the way up of him fighting through the tournament, succeeding, going there, and it gets to the end, and you have that grudge match. And it's like, it's a complete story, and it makes sense. This one's like, we start with a story, and then we're going to leave it on the ground until we come back to it later. And it's just like, no.
So, like, if you know, a sequel happens to this, which it probably will. I mean, the film has made its budget at this point.
Oh yeah.
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 But one, I would probably just write Cole out of this sequel. I don't. You don't need him. You really don't.
He doesn't even gain or he doesn't even lose anything.
He doesn't go for a hero's journey of any kind. He stays the same character by the end. You know.
Yeah, he doesn't. His only growth is just I care for my family, I guess.
Which
apparently didn't do that before.
Yeah, it's like, didn't do that already. Like,
I mean, their relationship was very unclear to start with, so I suppose so. But yeah, no, it's like Cole's whole thing is supposed to be your typical protagonist. I want to protect my family, but that's not what the story's about, and there's nothing that really truly pushes him to it. So then everything that happens to him is just half baked and just leading to a finale that shouldn't have him in the scene.
So I'm not kidding. I really hope that Stryker comes and just kills Cole in the next movie, takes his Arcana, and then he just gets an infinite supply of guns and grenades.
No. Mocap takes the Arcana.
Mocap.
The true hero of Mortal Kombat. Okay.
Hey man, he got that sucker punch off of Molina in the Armageddon intro. He's clearly a badass. No, they could do the freaking annihilation thing where like Cole's the first person to die. Just get him out of the scene.
Wait, what happened to the what's happened to the
Annihilation? The way they started off is like, all right, how do we know that Shao Kahn is a badass? He kills Johnny Cage. It's like, okay, okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Johnny Cage is like, I got this, and Shao Kahn's like, no, you don't.
I mean, this film is better than Annihilation, but that's not saying much at all. 'Cause Annihilation is terrible.
Yeah, Annihilation does not set that bar very high.
It's bad. I haven't watched it yet, but I just gotta.
I just need to show you the Shao Kahn Liu Kang fight. And
oh my god, that was what was that? Like I am so glad that like we have come so far in like CG technology and stuff like that, because if they tried to do half the shit they did in this movie back in the 1990s,
God.
It'd be laughable.
It'd be so bad.
But yeah. Any other closing thoughts you guys have, or do you think we pretty much said our piece on?
So
Not much more to say. Like, I definitely am curious to see what the next one does, but I hope they don't double down, and I hope they do learn some lessons from it. I feel like they've somewhat set themselves up for failure, though, just because of how they've focused on Cole and they've treated Scorpion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that they would need to fix about the story and the characters in order for the next movie to be good. Like, it's one of those things, like, you don't even have to get rid of Cole, just make him more entertaining and
or
give me
make
a
it
reason
actually
why
about him.
Yeah.
Make it actually about him and give me a reason as to why I should like this character, you know? And like I hope that they continue to do some of the things that they did in this movie. Like, I'm perfectly okay with them keep like doing all the references and stuff like that. I think the costume design was great. The moments where they had the original Mortal Kombat theme in there were fantastic.
Oh, they know that's the best song in Mortal Kombat, so like they used it as a leitmotif throughout this whole film. Kind of I'm very appreciative of, because the game's like barely used the theme, and I want them to use it more because the theme's great.
Yeah.
But...
yeah. So I just hope that they take the feedback that they're getting from this movie seriously to make the next one a really good movie. Because I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen with the Sonic movie too.
Yeah.
They're going to take all that, because everything that they've shown, like everything that we've seen from those set leak photos, have been really damn interesting so far, and it's looking like that movie's going to be pretty damn good.
I think the
So
more that like these video game movies could just be their own thing and not have to give like embrace their identity more and not having to feel like the executive melding that this film definitely had a problem with. Because like I said it back during the Detective Pikachu discussion that we have. I think the reason that film works is because it fully embraces its idea on Pokemon and like runs wild with it. Like this feels like you can replace it with just about any other action film and it's about the same, kind of deal. So I really hope they work around that. I mean, it's better than the actual Street Fighter film. Maybe not as cheesy, but
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't like Can on this.
It's weird with Street Fighter. Like, it's weird with that Street Fighter movie. There's some points where it's just like, man, this is so corny and dumb, I love it, and other times it's like, this is so corny and dumb, I can't stand it.
I know, right? Like,
I mean, every scene with M. Bison is like by default great because Raul Julia was doing amazing.
Yeah. I'm looking at a poster right now for like the IMAX showing of Mortal Kombat, and you can tell the marketing team didn't care for Cole either, because like for the Earthrealm cell, he is all the way to the like left far corner of this poster.
Like, most of the stuff they advertised was just Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
It's just a shot of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Like that was the thing that
should have been the film.
That like if like I have heard the Scorpion Sub-Zero story so many times, but like honestly, those were the best parts of the film besides Kano.
And like I do understand like the fear of like having to focus so much on Scorpion that it's hard, that you kind of lose your interest in it, and plus he doesn't naturally blend in with what the rest of the tournament setup was. So I can understand that issue. Like it's hard to get to the Mortal Kombat tournament with Scorpion as the main character. But I mean, not only did we not actually get to the tournament, but like it didn't feel like the way to do it. Like they wanted to kick and eat it too, and unfortunately they just couldn't really do it.
Yeah. So I guess that's about it for us. For where can I want to thank you guys again for joining for me. If you want to plug your stuff real fast, of where can they find you guys at?
Well, you guys can find me at on Twitter at TeviBear. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Tevi_bear. At this current moment when we're recording this, I'm still on my break, but when I get back, we will be continuing our playthrough of Mortal Kombat 9.
Yeah.
Keep it relevant, and Metroid Prime. So if you guys are interested, just stop by, leave a follow, and see what I got going on.
For me, you can find me also on Twitter under the tag Stefan Woad, WOAD. You can also find me intermittently on Twitch, though I still can't find many opportunities to stream, over at the Swedish X. And you can also follow me on my Artful if you want to keep more of the art aspect of it, since I do draw and stuff, which is also the Stefan, or not the Stefan Woad, it is Stefan Woad. Most of the stuff that I can show. I have a YouTube channel, but that's kind of nothing right now.
Pat, I wonder where people can find you at.
Well, you are on my channel. You can hit that little subscribe button and the notification bell, because YouTube hates the actual subscribe button. You can find me over on Twitch, which is Weedude, and then my Twitter of Weedude83. And yeah, let us know what you guys thought of the film down below. Keep the discussion going, and we'll see you next time for when we do one of these podcast things. Until then, have a good night.